But on that, the KAATSU straps, tell me like what your intro to blood flow restriction, where did that come into play?
Yeah. So, and if you tell KAATSU, if you call KAATSU blood flow restriction, they'll be like, it's not blood flow, it's KAATSU.
It's KAATSU. Yeah.
So I was in lockdown with, I was working with Madonna, and there was a gentleman there named Josh Holland, who's a biohacker. And Josh, you know, we since became good friends and keep in touch from afar. But he had KAATSU, he had ozone, he had red light, he had all the tools, methylene blue. He was my guy that opened me up to it. But I was still, you know, this is 2020, 2019 into 2020. And so we're in lockdown now, and him and I are together. And one day he's breaking out KAATSU, and he'd already done ozone with me. And I, oh yeah, that's right. And he's like, I got to put you on to KAATSU. Yeah. And he put me in some methylene blue, and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. Let me show you KAATSU. I'm like, come on, man. I swing kettlebells, I move barbells. I'm not interested in gadgets.
Right.
And then one day he put me through a workout, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know, and so, all right. I started playing with it more and more. And then that led me down the rabbit hole of, let's see what research I can find on this stuff. And then I found Mercola had done a bunch of articles about KAATSU in the chronic pain space. And that's where it started opening me up of, oh, this isn't just a tool that's going to elicit a super intense training response in a very short amount of time, but there's a ton of research on this in injury recovery and healing. And so I started going down the rabbit hole and found a ton of information on blood flow restriction. But what stood out to me with KAATSU was their cycling mode, which they have as like a patented thing, but 25 years of research in Japan using KAATSU in hospital settings, not just in training. I was, oh, this is crazy. So I started exploring it. I started training with it. And I think I did 3 or 4 weeks of just KAATSU every day with foundation training, some push-ups and some squats, and then run into a friend. He's like, bro, what are you doing? You look huge. Like, oh, that's cool. And then one day I go to Peter Park's gym. He's got all these baseball players in there, and we're all talking. And Peter and I are talking about one arm, one leg push-up. And these athletes are training like, oh, you can do one? Let's see it. Like, oh shit, I haven't done one in like a year. I hope I can do this. And I rack out 5. And I'm like, oh shit. And so I like stepping back, I'm like, that's because of KAATSU. Well, oh, I'm learning how to recruit more and more muscle. I'm training in this sense of we're building up lactic acid. We're fatiguing muscle at the same time because we're kind of we're like, we'll say, not an oxygen-rich environment. So you're getting a lot of type 1, type 2 fibers working together.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, wow, the training response of strength is there. When I look at it from the injury standpoint, it just started making sense. I started doing my foundation training with that all the time. I started feeling a difference in circulation benefits. And going to Japan, the KAATSU team, I started kind of getting more involved with them this last year, and they were going to Japan. They said, hey, do you want to come do a thing with Dr. Sato, the guy that created it? That to me is like, oh my God, I can go learn from the guy behind all this. So I went to Japan, and that was a 2-day deep dive into all the different organizations they're affiliated with, all the science, all the research. And I came back just going to every loved one, every friend, you got to get on this. And again, I'm like, this isn't me trying to sell you. I'm telling you because I believe in what this does. And to me, it's undeniable and it's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. What does it do? I mean, so traditional, and I apologize that I'm putting KAATSU and blood flow restriction in the same thing.
I tell it jokingly because that's them.
No, their team's awesome. Thank you for connecting with them. They've been nothing but wonderful. And just, I've tasked myself to continue to learn and grow. And obviously BFR has been a huge part of, especially ACL recovery. And there's a lot of research, amazing research, out there on that. But I think most people think it's just building muscle, right? Most people think you put it around your arms, you put it on your legs, and you're going to work on getting hypertrophy. You're creating an anoxic environment, right? That then cycles and opens up and gets more oxygen to the area, right? That's at least based on conversations that I've had with patients. That's kind of what they're, but you're talking about brain, you're talking about blood flow throughout the entire body. Can you go a little bit more? Cause why do you want everyone on it?
Okay. Yeah. So what I took from Japan, I'm going to do my best to give this from what I absorbed.
Yeah.
I look at it like this. The fact that you can put it on at the start of the day and the end of the day. the fact that anybody can do it at home on their own. It's user friendly, it's safe. The bands are hand designed, hand sewn so that you're not restricting the blood flow in, you're restricting the blood flow out.
Mm,
Okay? So we get this pooling of blood in the extremities, and that causes an engorgement of capillaries.
okay.
And what they're showing is that because there's only so much blood in the body, and we start engorging capillaries with blood, there's this kind of almost like an enhancement of circulation and oxygen. Like everything starts kind of like compensating for why aren't we getting the blood flow return back like we should.
Angiogenesis, more blood flow, more blood vessels coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they showed, and they've been doing research in Japan on this, where they start developing new capillaries in the brain. And so then you're getting this buildup of lactic acid if you're doing any kind of activities that gets that hormonal cascade response like training, right? So now we're getting the body to elicit growth hormone, elicit testosterone, brain-derived neurotropic factor, I think, BDNF, insulin growth factor. So we're getting all of these hormones that we typically have to go into a super intense grind to elicit without doing the super intense grind that now we have to spend days recovering from, right? So we're
the
able
acid
to
baths.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're not getting all of this acid bath effect. We're not getting this metabolic waste effect. So there's no, maybe the first couple times, but there's not really a DOMS, a delayed onset muscle soreness afterwards.
Oh, there definitely is for me.
Yeah, well,
I got it.
if you do it, if you start being consistent with it, that's typically I've in my experience stops happening.
Yeah.
But it's almost like I say it's a rinse and repeat. You're able to wake up and do the exact same thing again. And for me, that's what I've seen where we're able to elicit all of that hormonal cascade again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wear it before coming on to talk, is I took that from Dr. Mercola. Dr. Mercola is saying how he wears it 20 minutes before he goes on stage to lecture because the brain effect, that circulation effect, that BDNF effect, and I feel cognitively on, I feel a shift. If I put it on in the morning, there's a reason I do that, is because very quickly my brain feels on, my body feels on, I naturally just start wanting to do more activity. And so knowing the circulation effect that's happening now, this enhanced circulation, this enhanced oxygenation, this capillary effect, to me, that's something that as we get older, we want to be kind of promoting. And I've already had one friend on Oahu, an older gentleman that started using it, messaged me going, "Hey, I got off blood pressure medication because of this." And when we look at the elastic effect of the cycle mode that this is stimulating, where we engorge the limb with blood and then it releases. The bands release and then the blood gets to relax for a minute. And then we engorge again and then it releases. What they're showing is that we're exercising the vascularity itself, is so that we're not becoming this rigid piping system anymore, that we're back to being nice and elastic, and that things like this gentleman getting off blood pressure medication becomes normal. It's not uncommon. They've also, I want to say they're doing something with a Native American tribe that has been very proactive, KAATSU, where they want to start looking at how it's affecting diabetes. And so the fact that it's so effective on how it affects with insulin, all that stuff, again, that it starts to get over my head. But there's just so many side effects that they discussed in Japan and how they've used it over there in the hospital settings. I called my dad, like, "Hey, you're using it, use it every day. I don't care if you're training. I want you to get up and put it on." I showed up the last time to visit my dad, and he's laying a cement slab at 78 years old with his KAATSU on. And that's what I think is so amazing, is that you can do it, morning, put the arms on cycle mode 30 minutes, put the legs on 30 minutes,
Easy.
evening, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. And there's older people in their network that are using it multiple times a day for all of these benefits. And I go back to, again, like foundation training. I tell them the two things that have been the most game-changing in my life was foundation training and KAATSU. And then I would say free diving would be my third, breath work.
Yeah, Mackenzie stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but before I even knew, I only knew Brian as the runner. I got into free diving and I saw a shift in my focus, in my ability to sit and read a book as a young fireman again. And that opened me up. And then I found Wim Hof. And then I discovered Brian McKenzie, what he was doing with Laird, and then listening to Brian speak, I'm like, this is the guy that I've been looking for to help the fireman digest, the normal person digest, because
Right.
there's so many million things out there.
But someone who can break down what you were feeling too. Like he
Yeah.
does such a good job. It was so awesome to hear him talk
Well,
down
and
there
he's
too.
put it into a
Yeah.
system now where it's like his gears, how to use it for training, how to use it for life. I mean, Brian has taken what everyone's doing and helped develop it into a very usable system. And man, I just recommend his.
I love what he has to say.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to hear him speak more. I wanna go
Yeah,
watch
oh,
him,
he's
so,
a motivating
yeah.
speaker. So,
Um,
oh, did that kind of help?
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, so I could say, from my perspective, traditionally, it's like, oh, this is helping, especially at the geriatric and the aging population with muscle sarcopenia, right? Like
Huge.
age-related muscle atrophy. And but that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's so much more there. And that's what I wanted my audience and I wanted our listeners to hear that because it's doable, right? Like what you just said, it's doable to be able to do a little bit, 20 minutes, whatever, 10, 15 minutes in the morning, 10, 15 minutes in the afternoon, and you can make significant physical changes and
So-
emotional changes
Oh,
too as well.
huge. Well,
Yeah.
they're doing stuff now. They partnered with, I want to say it's called Lumina, but it's like something that's tracking brain stuff.
Mhm.
And they were doing a thing in Japan where they're putting people in an MRI after KAATSU, looking at the brain. Now they're able to do this. They're just tracking with them and with Aura Ring. I guess they partnered with Aura Ring, but they're showing very big impacts on things like Alzheimer's, PTSD, these different components that I actually told Steve, I'm like, hey, I want to do another chat with you just on trying to better like break down what you guys are finding and what you guys are showing. But I know there's a gentleman that is like apparently one of the researchers in the Alzheimer's space that just put out a book, and he has KAATSU in there, and they didn't even know that he was putting KAATSU in his book, but he's talking about its effect for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Barrett's been awesome, connecting with him. And then I got a chance, Chris Morgan was
believe
in,
that, yeah.
was in town, and he's their chief performance officer. And I think I want to say his mom lives here. And so he stopped by the office and we got to wrap for about an hour on it as well. And it's just all these like light bulbs are coming on as far as like, God, what can I do to get every single patient of mine, on this? Like, I would just, cause he's like, what are your goals? And I'm like, to optimize the hell out of people. Like ultimately my goal is to, yes, in my world, it's injury and recovery, but how do I get the best recovery possible? And how do I transition that person? Because that's where I'm typically going to be seeing people to be able to not have to deal with this ever again. And in their community, how can the community learn from that person's injury? And that's when we're like, okay, we got to figure out how to get KAATSU on every single person, every single patient of mine.
Yeah.
So,
I look at it and I go, it's just whether you're trying to be stronger, you're trying to be more resilient, you're trying to optimize the internal systems. It's a no-brainer. It's expensive. I
Yeah.
tell everybody, look, it's expensive, but you're either paying on the front end
Right.
or you're paying extensively on the back end.
That's a tough concept for people.
I
though.
know, man. But I look at it and go, look at all the areas you'll waste money.
Right.
Put into it. No, I'm not going to tell you. No, I bought the bullshit $20 tourniquet bands. I used them once. I threw them away.
Everyone's trying to hack it.
Everyone's trying to hack it. There's other blood flow restriction units that are $600. And guess what? You're going to use them a handful of times and they're going to sit and collect dust because they're very one-dimensional in my opinion. And I'll argue that with anybody. Where this is put it on, it's cycling. These things are designed to be almost impossible to create the issues that everyone brings up that are concerned. Yes, there's a handful of people out there that this is not intended for you. I'm not going to get into that. They have it all over their website. But in a longevity, performance training, and honestly, like super hack for athletes, this is a worthy investment. This is your home gym anywhere you go in the world. And you can get away with dumbbells and bands at the lightest levels and have huge impacts.